That's what I like to say.
Hello and welcome, Star Wars fans, to this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks, a show where we debate takes so hot they'd melt a planet with twin suns. My name's Brian, and I'm joined by my co-host Amanda to debate where these episodes rank amongst all Star Wars content. This week we're discussing the Bad Batch Season 3 premiere, a true trilogy of episodes. And I know it hasn't really been that long of a wait, but for me it felt like a long time, and it's already paying off. So Amanda, why don't you kick us off with what is going on now?
Oh yeah. Let's see. There's so much that happens. I feel like we should take it a little bit one episode at a time. So, season 3, episode 1 was called Confined. And following her capture by Dr. Hemlock, Omega adjusts to her life at the Imperial Research Facility by visiting her prisoner brother, Crosshair, and getting checkups from her mysterious and stoic clone sister, Dr. Emery Carr. Omega passes the time by creating herself a Tuca doll and befriends an imprisoned Lurka hound she affectionately names Batcher. Though she is not bound to her quarters, the young clone is determined to escape the oppressive facility with Crosshair, who does not believe it's possible. Meanwhile, Hemlock continues pushing the Kaminoan scientist Nala Se and her cloning work, hinting at further danger for Omega.
First thought for me was just holy cow, TK troopers are so cool. Like I know it was like one of the first shots and I was like I just take these guys for granted. They're so cool every time they're on screen, and they had like the Force Awakens intro with the dropship kind of with like the
Wow,
landing and
yeah,
stuff. The
I
intro was
guess
so
I even
cool.
like overlooked that simple detail.
It's
Just the
easy.
first watch around. I'm definitely going to
Yeah.
need to like watch them again.
No, it's one of those things that like so much else happens that like even cool little details and shots like that like just kind of you just don't realize, or you don't remember them until the second or third or fourth time you watch it if you're like me. I've already seen them twice, I will say, and it was super worth it. That's how I like going into Star Wars. I don't want to sit on my own thoughts for too long or have them influenced by other people or the internet. And yeah, I just couldn't wait for this premiere for all this time, and now it's finally here. And yeah, the TK Troopers. That's kind of, I could just talk the whole episode about how cool those guys are and how much I want to see them have lightsabers like they do in the original concept art.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if if you're super familiar with the concept. I have a whole book of like storyboarding art and stuff from the original trilogy, and that's like my favorite piece of art from Ralph McQuarrie is these
Mhm.
stormtroopers with a shield and a lightsaber.
Oh,
Like
cool.
perfect example of how like these things evolve over time, and like I'm just glad that Bad Batch is making good use of all kinds of different things, specifically the TK troopers, but also like the story and the characters that we're grounded in now. It's not just cameos and details. It's like you get right into stuff with Omega and Crosshair, and that is definitely like the core of the show for me at this junction. Like their relationship seems super important. What were your first thoughts of like seeing them interact in the first episode?
Yeah, well, my first impression was this was kind of the strongest opening I felt like the Bad Batch has had. And maybe that's because it is season 3 now and we know this is the final season. So the stakes are a lot higher. The team is a lot more matured and emotionally affected. Like they're a lot more cynical. Maybe not Omega so much. She's trying to keep her positivity about her, but I definitely got like nods to Andor in in kind of the monotony of the essentially prison research
Mm-hmm.
facility that they're in. Pod ones, thanks for joining us.
Hey, yeah, the build up.
Um
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. The whole first episode. It feels a lot like Andor.
yeah, and I think there's also this tension on like the blood samples and the research that's happening and questions that aren't being answered. Omega doesn't like Emery tries to convince Omega that she's not a prisoner and that she can like walk around and like do tasks and like feed these hounds and things like that, but she really isn't allowed even like the simplest of personal effects. And um, just like every other incident before this one, her main focus is getting out with her brother.
Mm-hmm.
And it's at first I was a little worried that Omega's character wasn't going to have progressed much further if she was just still sort of this, you know what, nothing can get me down. But
Mm-hmm.
we quickly see that time does like wear on her. I like how the episode does make a little jump in time, and we even see her like her face is changing, her hair is growing, and she's like learning how to like play by the rules
Mm-hmm.
while still being like very observant.
Right. There's more than one kind of prison, like Chirrut says in Rogue One. I suspect you carry yours wherever you go.
Mm,
But yeah, that's one thing in this episode is they try to convince her like it's basically the same as you had it on Camino, right? You're just kind of helping out with tasks. By the way, can we talk about how poorly the Camino education system has failed Omega? Because she didn't even know Coruscant was the capital of the dang Republic. That's
and
like
she's like the
geography.
Emperor who? That's in another episode,
No, I
but
know.
yeah.
Yeah, like what was she doing all that time on Camino? That's I don't know. I would have been very bored, and
Well,
I'm so happy
Camino
she got to
was
explore.
technically hidden from like the rest of the galaxy, so
Right.
that does
That's
kind
right.
of
It
make
was
sense.
literally off the radar.
Yeah.
Thank you,
No one
Kathleen
could know
Kennedy.
about it.
Yeah, that's not suspicious at all. In Attack of the Clones, right? Oh, this is a
Yeah, no
surprise
kidding.
army. Uh, but no, like the core of it being tech or sorry. Oh, rest in peace. I'm already sad again. With Crosshair and Omega, their whole relationship going from like barely looking at each other, you know, or like at the beginning, you know, the first time they interact, Omega gives him that like, hey man, here's the side eye here. Let's like, I don't know, let's communicate. Let's do some, show some emotion. And then
Yeah.
by the time after they have that jump is actually really significant. In fact, I think I might need to edit my score because I forgot how cool that was for the story. Um, and then the next time they pass each other in the hallway, Omega doesn't even look towards him. And I
Mhm.
was like, yeah, that same thing. She's playing by the rules. She's just kind of learning to deal with it. She knows she's just biding her time, but she also knows she's not leaving without him. And my favorite line from this episode was when she's like, "Crosshair, I love you. Come on, we gotta get out." And he says, "Oh," and she says, my brothers wouldn't leave me or something. I wouldn't leave my brothers." And she says, Crosshair says in response, "I'm not them." Which is like devastating to hear. But then I don't know. The more I thought about that line, I was like, he's not saying I'm not your brother. I won't protect you. He's just saying I'm not them. And it's the way that the conversation was going. It's more framed like I'm not worth saving to me. That's kind
Mm.
of on my second rewatch what I
Oh.
thought about that. I think there's a lot of depth to their relationship, and I don't think Crosshair dislikes Omega by any means, but I do love how much room their relationship still has to grow by the end of the third episode, even. And I kind of hope it takes a while for the rest of the Bad Batch to find them, honestly, because like I want them to spend more time together. And it is crazy isolating seeing just Wrecker and Hunter together. Uh,
Oh, I know. That was actually something that I felt like a piece of criticism that I had in previous seasons was anytime that the batch was somewhat separated, which wasn't very often, the episode would still attempt to tell both sides of what's going on like simultaneously.
mhm,
And I really appreciated that each of these first 3 episodes that were released were focused on like one storyline going all the way through uninterrupted,
mhm.
and that to me showed again sort of that level of maturity in even the storytelling and this like seriousness of it as well, like truly isolating and separating these individuals from each other because they are.
Yeah, it really emphasizes that feeling of being alone just because they're not cutting between the scenes so frequently. Like I was thinking about that too, how like the book of Lord of the Rings. I was talking with Brody about this. We're doing a Lord of the Rings podcast. The book of Lord of the Rings, like the second and third one at least, the like the storylines that you see them follow the two different paths, you know, the hobbits and the rest of the fellowship, they're told completely separately. It's like two, like if you took
Mhm.
Peter Jackson's movie, like you would edit all the scenes separately, and then just show all of the Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli stuff, and then all the Frodo and Sam stuff together. And that was whack to me, going from the movies to reading the books like that. But
Mm.
it's the same kind of thing with like a show like this. I think 30 minutes for an episode is just enough time to really get through a whole story. And while I think I would have enjoyed, the pacing and the more fast, intense kind of driving kind of story when you're cutting between two really tense plot lines, I think these 3 episodes were the right time to pull back on that and just say, no, let's just focus and get everything we can out of these characters.
Well, and especially that first episode really lingers on the monotony and how stale everything is. There was several times when it felt like the camera fades to black, and I thought that was going to be the end of the episode, but nope, it is just another day. And like the way that the sink drips and just the different nuances of her daily life, the emphasis on how special her blood is and how Nalase knows how special Omega's blood is, but Omega doesn't even know it.
Right.
And she's protecting Omega from knowing, and we find out later why that's so important.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, there's a lot of points I gave to the third episode that I feel like the first episode really deserves because it's set up and payoff. But every little thing in this first episode does pay off, and that's what makes it like a real like trilogy. This is like a whole movie, and it's, I don't know. Bad Batch is already feeling like it's the Empire Strikes Back of animation. I don't know if we need to go there, but yeah, it's already just kind of blowing my socks off. Yeah, the first episode, very big Andor vibes, especially with the prison. Not a whole lot going on story wise, but just the setting up the relationship, setting the board. I think they did a very effective job. What happens in episode 2?
Well, before we move on, you ended up ranking this first episode a 76%, and I gave it a 75.6. So we were very quite in step with that one.
I know. And
we'll see what Brody gets to when he gets to it.
I feel like he just gives everything 80s now. Like everything is like passable. And I think this was more than passable, but for some reason I don't know, like I still just couldn't give it perfect markings.
It was building up for the next one, which
it's an arc. It's incredible.
Which episode 2 is called Paths Unknown. Working as mercenaries, Hunter and Wrecker complete a dangerous job in exchange for what may be the location of Dr. Hemlock's lab. They follow at the coordinates to find a jungle planet and an ominous abandoned Imperial base, as well as young clones surviving in the wilderness. Together, they seek to uncover clues to Omega's whereabouts and must fend off a terrifying threat the Empire's experiments left behind. This really started to amp things up for me. Like kicking it off, we are back on, I can't remember the planet name, but
I don't know if they even dropped it, honestly.
But yeah, it's a planet from maybe season 1. Is that right?
Oh, is it? Okay.
When the guy's horn gets knocked off.
Yes, that scene. Yeah. Shoot, the guy from Rebels is that species.
Oh yeah, he's in Rebels. Was he not in Bad Batch then? Am I just getting that mixed up?
That same character. No, that's a different character than these guys. But it's the same species, same race. So I'm also struggling to find the planet.
I watch so much Star Wars that I forget, like, is it Bad Batch? Is it Clone Wars? Is it Rebels? But we start off in a familiar territory with that queen who they turn over. Actually, Hunter and Wrecker turn over a member of the Pike Syndicate, which is starting to then leave these little breadcrumbs that I'm very excited about, which are all leading to kind of these further storylines. And I'm getting really really excited to hear about more of the clone process. Obviously, it's a very, very important thing. How the Pikes fall into like the Mandalorian storyline and the spice trade and all of this stuff, and I feel like that's very intentional. So
I hope so, because they've definitely hinted at things like Crimson Dawn coming to animation. Or isn't that season 7 of the Clone Wars that shows a hologram of Dryden Voss. Like, I would love to see
Mhm.
Solo content. We need to just acknowledge that Solo exists and just celebrate the great things that it created. Like, yeah, it was kind of a mess of production, but yeah, seeing like the Pikes and Kessel, like things like that, does create this big, more coherent universe. And I think we need to see more young Han and definitely more young Lando. We know we're getting that, but like,
Yeah.
we got a lot of young Leia. We've got a decent amount of young Luke already, so I think they deserve
Yes.
some love. But yeah, setting up, connecting to season 1 as well, I think was a pretty good choice for opening this storyline. Is like, we're not forgetting where these characters have been. Just a little reminder at like the scum and villainy, the things going on behind the scenes, like leaving room for deviations from the main quest line, which is super important and interesting. Like, the most important thing in animation in all of the shows is like connecting this line between episodes 1 and episode 9, you know, like
Right.
bringing Project Necromancer. Like, yeah, they've been hinting about that for a long time, but this is like the most we've ever gotten to see it. I guess that's in episode 3. But I do love, I'm really hoping to see later in the season some Crimson Dawn, some Syndicate stuff going on.
Yes. I'm very eager for that.
Mm-hmm. And some
And
Han.
maybe that's where, the Ventress comes into play at some point. Maybe it is like a flashback or something. I don't know. I'm still also very eager for that. But
Yeah.
the rest of this episode, I love, like, I mean, maybe you guys know that I'm not like the most like super well versed in like the densest expanded universe, but it seemed like this was a very new species of plant that
Mhm.
was invading this planet, which it turned out to be like a experiment gone bad that the Empire had been doing. And I thought that was interesting because I couldn't recall another instance of a species like this other than the Sarlacc,
Yeah.
which is the vibe that I got. It was sort of like an oil Sarlacc that you kind of saw from above at the end, but I thought
Right.
it gave me kind of The Last of Us vibes
Yeah. Yeah, just the tone
with
of
those
it.
little things that were like running
The
around.
face huggers, yeah. From
Yeah,
Alien,
that was
yeah.
scary.
That really was, and like you hit the nail on the head with that like comparison. It definitely. I love when Star Wars is horror, and I love like when there's Sarlaccs in different scenarios. Like, I don't know if you're a Pokemon person, Amanda, but there's like regional variants of Pokemon now. So like this to me was just like the grass variant of the
Ah,
Sarlacc, and it
and
looks
then there's
super
the
cool.
ice variant and the fire
Yeah,
variant. Yeah,
Felucia has their own like thing going on
Yeah.
actually, but um, I love when Star Wars is horror, and I also thought immediately about the Watcher from Fellowship of, from Lord of the Rings, from the Fellowship, the first movie. That it looked very similar with arms grabbing people.
Oh yeah.
So I thought maybe there was some
I got
inspiration there.
it also took me back to Jumanji, a
Oh
childhood favorite of mine, but I was always so terrified of like the vine that like wrapped around and like pulled them. Like
yeah.
that definitely re-traumatized me.
Yeah, and then it evolves into this like Zelda dungeon boss like at the end.
Yeah.
It's so cool how like the monster itself just evolves from, oh, I accidentally touched a vine, to becoming this like big thing. And thank God those little kids were hijacking the ship when they called, cuz like I don't think they would have made it. They
Yeah, I
got
thought
kind of
that
lucky.
was a great way to bring both of those. Yeah, I just thought that whole episode had a great way of bringing those characters together. First off, it's really cool and unique that we get to see younglings, young
Mhm.
clones. What did they call them? Selves? I thought they gave themselves like a little nickname.
Um that group of 3 themselves.
Yeah. Or like
Oh.
what they call like the cadets before they I don't remember.
Hmm.
But it did remind me because we had just finished watching season 2 finale of
Mhm.
the Clone Wars,
And I'm already
and
eating my words about it.
well, I immediately gave my first impression was I'm so glad that they have age appropriate voice actors
Mhm.
for these children.
Yeah, the voice acting definitely stepped up. I don't know if you caught it. That is Daniel Logan voicing one of those
Oh,
cadets.
okay.
So I
Okay.
was immediately just like, okay, all right. He actually
Okay.
did step up, and like he did a good
Redemption.
job with these. Yeah, I think all my complaints about his acting before, I'm just gonna never mention them again
Yeah.
after this sentence.
But it worked great for us as far as like our content because we had just talked about it. And those
Mhm.
kids were like floating around in space, so it's sort of like I wonder how these kids like kind of got there, and they kind of talk about it, but
Yeah, they show
it
them
just adds a lot more questions, that you ask.
right. Yeah, they were, I believe, the same characters that they were evacuating at the end of season 1, right? When they blow up Camino, they
Oh,
were
right.
evacuating a bunch of the little kids. Very briefly shown. I'm not sure if they're really named. I don't remember if they have dialogue even. But it is, yeah, there is a little bit of continuity there, and they're picking up all the threads that they can from season 1. They're
That's
like, I love
great.
the choice to make this a 3-season show. It's like, we know what a trilogy is. We know how to set
Yes.
things up, and then you split the characters apart, and then you put them back together, and it's all exciting. And so I don't know if you have too many other thoughts on episode 2, because like it was definitely my like. I thought like weaker than the other two, just like it's not as important as a story, and it's the story itself is kind of like a little bit forced and obligatory at times, just like they just kind of have to get saved at the end just because they do. That's just what happens when you have a ticking clock
Mhm.
mechanism. Definitely feels like a video game at a lot of points.
Yeah, I wanted to call out in all of these episodes, but especially this one and the next one, like the music
Yeah.
was really great, really strong and subtle when it needed to be. And I just gave it a 4.5 on this episode, and that was the highest ranking I gave to a category. So I wanted to
Hmm.
call that out.
Yeah, yeah, I put it at a 4.7. I just love how it accentuates the horror and the atmosphere of everything going on in that ship.
And the jungleness and
Yeah.
yeah, all of
It's
it.
like the ambience. Yeah, yeah. So many cool things going on in the music. Each episode is so unique too. I love just not like Clone Wars is already kind of getting a little boring because you just hear the same couple of themes over and over and over
Mhm.
again, But Bad Batch is all like purely orchestrated. It's all original and fun. But especially episode 3, I gave it way higher marks than episode in the third one.
Yeah, let's get into that one. So this episode, season 3, episode 3 of the Bad Batch is called Shadow of Tantus. Emperor Palpatine visits Dr. Hemlock to see the progress on the work being done. Nala Se cannot prevent Emery moving ahead with research that may put Omega in danger, so she secretly tells the young clone to run away. Omega is adamant that Crosshair must make the escape attempt with her, but finding a way out of the facility and off the planet will be a monumental challenge. So this one really got me excited. First of all,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting us to break out yet, but I'm really glad that we did. It would have felt, I think we would have walked ourselves into maybe a little bit more of some of our Ahsoka issues with like,
Mm.
it took too long to get to like the point where things needed to change.
Yeah, and then the payoff
So
was
I'm
worth
glad
it.
that it was laid out in these 3 episodes this way. And oh my gosh, seeing Omega and Crosshair working together is really just so special.
I know, and when he defends her, like it's a very small moment, and it's like, of course, who wouldn't defend her, but like when it finally happens, it's like, okay, thank you, story, for forcing these characters to love each other.
Yes.
And I love the woven in plot armor. That's something I'm a big fan of, because if you're gonna have a main character and you're gonna have to keep them alive throughout everything, might as well give them a reason to be important for the villains. Like they have a very real reason to need Omega around, and immediately Hemlock is like,
Right.
"Oh shoot, let it
Do not,
ceasefire,
yeah,
just
pull
let them
back.
go, man. We
Yeah,
are
we'll
not
find
messing with
them.
that." Yeah, this is way too important. We have all of the resources of the Empire at our disposal. That is like such a cool way to set up this season. Like it's gonna be big. Like there's a
Yeah.
lot of clones out there, and a lot of them gonna rebel. And Hemlock's building like his own entire army now for this
And I mean,
purpose.
Emperor Palpatine like says it straight to him, like, this is the most important thing that we need to be worried about.
Mm-hmm. That's heavy.
Have we heard it called Project Necromancy before?
I believe they have. I can't pin it down, but it wasn't like when I heard it, I wasn't surprised to hear that name. It sounded like something very familiar. I'm
I
pretty
said it
sure
was
it's
a
in
little too
Mando.
obvious.
a little too on the nose.
Yeah, I
Oh,
was
for
like,
sure.
wow. Project Clone Palpatine and bring him back.
Right.
Like
Makes you wonder, like, how many people know about Palpatine, or how close he is to getting figured out as a Sith Lord. Because, I mean, he doesn't say that it's for him necessarily. He's like, you know, all these
yeah.
midichlorian research projects and everything clearly point to, you know, the Force being very important. He's a super creepy dude, so like, how could you not pin him as the Sith Lord?
Yeah, he does not pass the vibe check.
And neither does his music. I just everything about the score and the way they portray Palpatine in this. This is maybe like the best Palpatine content since Episode 6.
It really is. His Praetorian
Or 3.
guards, like, also
Yeah,
like
3,
coming
yeah,
out. Those are so cool.
They're beautiful. I never don't lose my mind when I see them.
I wanted to see them like use their weapon. I'm not as like super well versed in like the weaponry, but it looked like sort of like a saber, but also like a cattle prod type weapon.
Yeah, I think it's mostly like more similar to a cattle prod, the way I've seen it. But different games kind of portray them differently. They use them differently. So I'm excited to see them fight at some point as well. And I'm glad they didn't like turn this into like the way I thought it was going to go is Crosshair is going to learn the Emperor is here and he's going to try to assassinate him. Like, that would have been crazy to see, but I do also appreciate them not forcing all these characters to interact, because, like, that's a big complaint.
Especially right away.
Yeah, at the beginning of the season. But, like, something about the prequels that has always bothered me is that it makes the universe of Star Wars feel smaller when every character knows each other, and when you have to bring every character back from the original trilogy, and the complaints about it just being nostalgia, cash grabbing for familiar characters that people have against Disney now, that is exactly true in a different way, kind of, about the prequels. So I guess that is one character interaction that I guess we don't need to see. You know, I don't think we need the Emperor to be like a direct antagonist in this movie. I think Hemlock's an important and interesting enough villain that the rest of the story is going to be interesting without Palpatine, and also without, you know, you don't need to force Vader into here, but wouldn't mind seeing some Vader, you know, as long as they're very good at keeping things within, you know, canon. So
yeah,
no complaints there.
Also wanted to talk about how Omega's trying to find. I kind of get that Emery fills that sort of tech void as far as like not really showing any emotion, or is just like really conditioned to not have any emotion. So Omega's trying to kind of find a way to break through to her. And it doesn't end up totally working, but there is that little sign of hope at the end.
Yeah. There's definitely a relationship there, and that's another really cool thing about the characters at this point is every little relationship is pretty deep and has a lot of significance and has the potential to change the course of the galaxy, right? Like, this is high stakes stuff, and all of these characters are so relatable and lovable. Even like Wrecker's performance has evolved so much from when we saw him introduced in the Clone Wars. I actually went back and watched those 4 episodes right after finishing this, just to kind of compare how far we've come. And like, it's actually, you would be surprised at how much better the animation and everything is in the Bad Batch than it is in Clone Wars Season 7. Like, it's already stepped up a bunch, but the characters have grown so much, and Wrecker is a much more, he's definitely still got his, like, you know, ambitious and wanted to blow things up kind of personality, this run and gun kind of character, and with his goofballness as well. I love that moment where he straps Gonki to his back.
Yes. I just kept thinking about how we need like Fortnite skins of Wrecker with Gonki on his back.
I would love to see that. There's like a Battlefront mod of Chewbacca with 3PO on his back. You know, like 3PO's like all broken up in episode 5. And it's like I have art of it actually that I bought of Disney, because for some reason I've just always loved that weird niche little relationship between Chewie and 3PO. It's just like so random, but like seeing their, you know, the way he takes care of them is, I don't know, it's heartwarming. So yeah, I just love strapping droids to your back. That's a theme in Star Wars now as of this episode. Lore building, right?
Yeah, definitely. It all rhymes. So I also love, again, we are still like right back at the Tantus research lab. We're not like jumping back and forth. And they use the like centrifuge or whatever the blood samples are going in as
Mm,
this really great method of building tension
yeah.
and showing the clock ticking without showing a clock. And I was like, yes, this is more cinematic and thoughtful than some of the other content I feel like I've been seeing. So,
Oh, for sure. That was a really cool mechanic just to keep the tension there in a believable way. Um,
mhm.
and it's yeah, no, the way the story shook out with them, I thought it, they were gonna find. I didn't know exactly what the implications of that were gonna be, but Nala Se did, and Omega like for sure has force potential at least, right? Isn't that a pretty significant reveal from this?
That's kind of what I'm wondering, because up until this point, we still don't really know what is special about Omega.
Mhm.
Like, that's yet to ever be really defined, other than like she's sort of like Nala Se's like special project, I guess. Um, and we don't even really know what type of experiments like they're doing. Like, how much of her blood do they really need? Do
Mhm.
they I don't know. And then I also have to I think about what we know from The Mandalorian and how when Grogu is also captured and they like draw some of his blood.
Mhm.
So I'm trying to think of like where those technologies kind of overlap.
Right. I mean, it's clearly supposed to connect at some point, but it seems like there's quite a jump between the Bad Batch and the Mandalorian, enough to, for me, predict that it's all gonna explode at the end of the series, and they're gonna have to start back from ground
Yeah.
one, square one, ground zero, whatever you call it.
Well,
Um,
and tell me if you think this way too. Does this mean that Snoke is Palpatine and Omega?
Snoke is Omega's child, kind
Yeah.
of. I
Yeah.
mean, in a way, like directly or not, like this research absolutely influenced it.
I was trying to be like, wow, they can't make Omega's genes make someone that ugly, but I guess like Palpatine is pretty dang ugly,
Is that
so
messed up? Or the technology is just the science is still that iffy with trying to,
yeah.
reduce the degradation of the cells that he just
Mm,
turns into this like 8-foot monster. Like Snoke
like a
is huge.
is
Yeah,
he really?
Snoke is super tall. Yeah. Yeah. Really, the only time you see him actually stand up is in the Last Jedi, and
Oh
I just remember
yeah.
him just towering over Kylo Ren. Who's Adam Driver's not a short dude.
No, he
He's like
isn't.
6'3" or 6'4" or something, I think. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, Snoke is scary. I really do want to see like those other clones that were in the vat in Episode 9 do something. That's written in the Blop actually. That's the last arc is he goes to Exegol during that battle and he's the one that kills all of Snoke's clones.
Wow.
While Kylo and spoiler alert, I guess this is long. Everyone, yeah, this is never coming out anyways. But this is just how the story's going.
um
The Jurassic Park vibes in this episode.
oh yeah.
I loved like the raptors coming after the tiger bear. Like that's something straight out of Last Airbender 2, right? Like
Yes.
when he's like towers. I just tiger bear. That's just two. They took two animals
Yep.
and they just made them have a baby.
Yeah.
That's just how genetics work in
No,
Star
I
Wars.
liked yeah, this got like immersive universe points for adding to this planet and making it like giving it new animals and species and
Mhm.
um I also really loved the choreography of them escaping,
Yeah.
and the fact that it was like improvised is very Bad Batch of her, like
Mhm.
very on brand, and beautiful. And how she just like shows up at Crosshair's door and is like, I don't know, I'm escaping, like just distract them. And then the great beat of like the door releasing and he's able to just
Mhm.
take down the
Oh yeah.
um the troopers there. But I was wishing that she would have like released all of the prisoners. That would have been a great
Oh,
distraction.
whole prison escape. That would have
Yes.
been, I don't know, the whole place was on lockdown. I don't think that would have worked out at all if they hadn't been able to get as far as they did before
But I think
sounding the alarm.
everyone would have been more focused on like, oh my gosh, look at all these prisoners. We need to gather them. And they would have lost track of what happened.
I doubt it, because there's that base is huge. There are so many stormtroopers and commandos on
Yeah.
that base. Like, it's, I don't know. I think the way they did it was like the only way it would have worked out, which makes it extra fun that it was so scuffed and just, oh, I thought this was gonna work. And Crosshair says, we're not done yet. And then,
Yeah.
it's like the choreography of that scene with Crosshair just like walking around the trees, just like drawing
Yes.
the fire and then going around.
And then
That
how
was so
she
Battlefront.
sweeps in and like takes over the ship. I was just like, this is so Bad Batch, and she's grown
Yeah.
so much, and
She's
they're
so
such a
cool.
duo.
I
Yeah.
know the way she like slides and like starts
Yes.
firing at them when when like the doors open, and that's just like that's
She's
such a cool move.
confident.
And then she gets her puppy
Then she was
on board too,
blasting
on
them.
top of everything. Yeah, she's ready to.
It wasn't set to stun.
That ship, no, ships don't have stun blasters. But she might have just shot in front of them and made them, go flying with the with the knockback. Maybe there was no damage.
I
It
want
was all
Omega to
knockback.
get her first kill.
You do? Or maybe she's gonna be that pure character that doesn't have to kill.
Mm.
Like Batman. Omega's gonna be the Batman of Star Wars.
I think she's too nice to be Batman.
Guns are for cowards. Straight quote from Batman.
Any other thoughts? Like what else did you pick up on that like drew you back to season 1 if there's anything that we haven't talked about?
Oh, I guess nothing specific with season 1 other than like it is cool. Like, I don't know if you remember, like the opening of season 1 is with Palpatine kind of setting the stage with his speech on Coruscant, like his.
I forgot that was how it
It's
opened.
not the opening scene, but it's in the very beginning of the episode, and it's very effective. So seeing, grounding yourself in that, setting of the early dark times, I think was a good way to, thematically bring in the stakes of where this is going, where it's been. But I did love the mouse droid bit as well. It's trying to get out the elevator, and Omega kicks, and he's like, "Mother." That was great. I love mouse.
They
droids.
also referenced, not by name, but they referenced they were going to drop off those clone kiddos at Pabu.
Yes, so he said there's an island. So yeah, referencing Pabu,
which I figured that they would just want to join the fight, and maybe that will still be left for them, because I mean it's so weird seeing just Hunter and Wrecker in that whole ship by themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I love that it's their choice. That's the most important thing. Is Hunter saying like, you can, if you want to join us, we would love to have you. Well, he doesn't really say that, but like I'm sure he would. Eventually, once they're adults, you're not sending child soldiers unless it's Omega, because she gets a pass. They leave the door open for the clones to choose for themselves. Like the biggest issue in like the Clone Wars, like ethically, is like the entire Republic is okay with just like breeding like millions of sentient beings just to send them to their death. Like they're specifically bred for one purpose, and I know like they enjoy that purpose, or they say they do, right? Kind of like Pokemon and the animal cruelty thing, like, oh, they love fighting. But like, do they really know any other way? Like, I don't know. Unless you give them that choice, like it's wrong to just like force them into that life. So that I'm excited to see them do that. And I'm sure that they want to fight, because you see the clones in the Senator Chuchi episode when she's trying to uncover this conspiracy. The clones are like, no, we want to fight. That's all we've done our whole lives. Like this, they have this option. They could push for their rights and a peaceful life, but Chuchi's like, no, you're getting old. You're gonna have to retire eventually. Like, just chill.
And those kids kind of say the same thing. They're like, we were supposed to be soldiers, but like, and they still technically are programmed for that.
Right.
So yeah, I do like that it's their choice. And I did also feel like, because the bunny rabbit that stays in the ship there was kind of a nod to those kids that like, this is kind of a safe space, like we're used to interacting with people your age.
Have they ever seen a toy before in their lives?
Yeah,
Like, maybe not. Like, that's pretty messed up. Like, they're like,
Yeah.
oh, I want to hug that thing. This is awakening something in me. A childhood.
Awesome. Best Bad Batch episodes. We're kind of in agreement here, especially for this episode number 3. I gave it a 92%, and you gave it a 95.2.
Yes, I did.
Whoa.
It's hard not just giving everything 5s for this 3rd episode, but I'm gonna make them earn it for sure.
Yeah.
The only one I gave a 5 is the technical aspects.
I still stand by what I said earlier, which is if they bring back Tech and Tech does not die, that episode will get a flat 0.
0 across the board.
A first ever 0. However, after watching these first couple episodes, I believe that he will stay dead. My prediction is that he will stay dead because it seems they understand the tone of the show needs to be that serious. But
if they have it your way, then everyone's going to die anyways. So you might as well, we had to prepare for it.
Yeah, they brought him back just so they could all die together,
Oh, shed a tear.
But Jake, my husband, he thinks that they will bring him back and he's not happy about it. But I'm like, nah, I don't think they will. So we'll see.
We'll burn that bridge when we're crossing it. Same thing with like Ventress and her, like, is it a clone of Ventress? Is it a flashback? I'm hoping for flashback. I'm betting on flashback.
Yeah.
But it's another thing that you can't complain until you see it. So I'm holding my tongue for now.
And I'm going to be very excited when I do see it.
Oh yeah. Well, shall we get into our hot takes segment?
Let's do it.
Let's take some hotness.
Don't be too proud of this podcast you've constructed. The ability to rank content is insignificant next to the power of an exceptional hot take.
It's hot takes time. I've got one in the chamber, unless you are just itching.
I have one. I have a little bit of one. My hot take is I think that Dr. Hemlock is a better villain than a lot of them. I would say even better than wow, my brain just blanked.
Would you say Dooku?
Tarkin.
Mm-hmm.
Especially trying to keep it under the Imperial command,
Yeah, within that realm of that, not a very similar
allyship sort of.
Yeah, that alignment. Oh wow, better than Tarkin? I
think what he has is better looks. I mean, obviously.
That's true. I would.
He has more riz, if you will.
That's for sure.
Since the kids care about that nowadays.
Well, I don't know. Tarkin and his slippers on the Death Star. You know about that? He filmed a lot of those scenes in his slippers because his feet were uncomfortable. So he just requested that they shot everything from the waist up, so he could wear his slippers on set. Peter Cushing is like one of the best actors in Star Wars, and I think all of his portrayals throughout the animation as well are really interesting and impactful, and they connect the saga together. They move Anakin forward in his political idealizations. I think Tarkin is definitely one of the best villains. So I don't know. There's a lot of other villains that I would say Hemlock is more interesting than, but Tarkin, that's a hard one for me as an original trilogy purist. I'm gonna have to say
I got a bad feeling about this hot take.
That's not the right one, is it? Or was that the right one?
Fair enough. All right, what do you got then?
Okay, this is an opinion I didn't know I had until episode 3 of the Bad Batch season 3, which is like Palpatine's theme is by far the best character theme in the saga. I'm not gonna say it's the best motif, but as far as characterization goes and what that character stands for and their whole vibe, I think Palpatine's theme is like by far more effective than Imperial March is for Vader.
Wow.
And I do
Wow.
like Vader. I am a Vader
That's
fanboy.
that is a bold take. Because the first thing I think of would be Imperial March.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's
Um,
iconic. That's a phrase that I think is like so worn out by now. Like,
No,
just because
but
something's iconic doesn't make it good.
true. I
That's
hear
like
what you're saying though, as far as it like really personifying the depth and like menace of Palpatine. I hear what you're saying.
the Phantom Menace, if you will.
Mm.
It's very ghostly.
Did
When I
not
have a
really
cold, I
like.
can really hit it.
I need like a music major on here to tell us about like there's all those like minor chords and like deep
The theory.
stuff like that.
I consider myself a bit of a music theorician.
Oh,
I
yeah?
have to do some analysis. It takes a little bit of work, but like one time I was just bored and I decided to do a music analysis at work of Ocarina of Time's the Temple of Time theme, which is my favorite Zelda theme. For the same reason I love Palpatine's theme. I just love low, deep, guttural vocals. Like I just love how much weight it adds to the scene, and it almost like in a sacred kind of way. Like
It's very
not
foreboding.
human.
It feels ancient.
Mm-hmm. Everything
Yeah.
Palpatine is, and just super spooky.
Yeah.
Ooh,
You know what?
spooky.
That's a pretty good hot take. I'll agree with you. You can have that one.
Okay. Great. Well, yeah, these episodes overall, I'm gonna say like I don't know if they're my favorite Bad Batch episodes yet, but this season so far is on track to be, I think, by far the best animated show.
I also think so. And you know how much I love Rebels, but
Dang,
like
I was hoping that would ruffle your feathers.
No, like
'Cause I
these
love it
first 3
too.
episodes, I was like, this is really everything that I want to see in this show right now. It's still expanding on the world that we know. So it still feels like fresh, and it's connecting all of these other pieces that we've been longing to see where they head to. So it's got me really excited.
Yeah, and I think even if they don't lead directly into or explain everything about the cloning technology, like I think it's always been there, since they introduced the idea in Mando. Like I don't really need to see that storyline played out, but it does add so much importance to these events, and I think like it's the only thing that if the Bad Batch all has to sacrifice themselves for something, I think this is something that's actually worth it, because this is like still way before Luke is competent enough to fly an X-wing. Like this is a pivotal moment. If this goes right, it's over for the Rebels. And that's something that the Rebels series does as well, and a lot of these little spin-offs and prequels and in-betweens, that it's like it doesn't just take one. It takes a lot of very lucky people and a lot of just being in the right place and a lot of spreading your message to other people to really get a movement started.
And you think of all of that, always reminds me of Rogue One and how every one of those people dies before they even get to know that their work was even worth it.
It's tragic, but effective.
But that is but when you take that into account, that really gives you what Star Wars is about, and having a belief and a reason to fight for something bigger than your own life is extremely powerful, and something that we all hope that we never have to relate to.
Yeah, for sure. It's already getting pretty heavy, honestly.
I know,
the
but I love the heavy stuff, so I'm like really excited.
It's so dark. It's like I said at the beginning of the episode, this is like the Empire Strikes Back of animation for Star Wars.
Well, and I think we'll even see that kind of take on even more with Crosshair and Omega side by side. Like their personalities are just so different, and I just am so I was so proud to see Crosshair fighting, and oh my gosh, the way we didn't even talk about how his hand shakes and he
Oh
missed
yeah,
his shot.
I relate to that. I got hand tremors too. Crosshair's my guy.
Oh, but I thought, showing that also just and Omega noticing that
Yeah, her empathy.
yes, exactly, that empathy and that care, and that was the one thing that Crosshair was like designed to do. And so now even his own like purpose is dwindling.
If you take that away, yeah, what happens? That's
So
that's gonna be
he's
interesting
going to
to
be
follow.
facing a lot this season, and I'm really excited.
Just gonna have to switch to his left hand, I guess. I'm sure he's incredibly
Ambidextrous.
talented at both. Yeah, why not? Why not make that a superpower too? Ambidextrosity. Do you have any predictions for just the rest of the season? I know we kind of missed the window on doing like an official Bad Batch bingo for this season, but I just got so many thoughts of what I want to see. Specifically the TK troopers with lightsabers. I'll just run through my list. Yeah, seeing TK troopers with lightsabers or some sort of melee weapon, I guess, could suffice. But there are non-Jedi characters wielding lightsabers now, so it's not too far out of the realm. I do believe we're gonna see Vader at some point, and I do believe we're gonna see Exegol. Actually, I think like, if this goes wrong, this will be like the seed to like, they could show exactly the first steps into taking that, or they could do a time jump after the season's over, just kind of show exactly how these things connect. But I think Exegol, that's definitely a wishful thinking, but something I'm pretty confident about.
This is very much wishful thinking. And I haven't read enough of like the lore in the other books to know how this pops up elsewhere, but we saw hints of the path during Obi-Wan Kenobi as this like smuggle route for refugees and like children, especially force sensitive children. So I would love to see another reference to that, maybe Omega and like the other clone cadets that they rescued, being a part of that, helping find that, bring it together or something. I don't know. I'm trying to think of other ways that underground Omega can help the rebellion as this goes on, because she has a big target on her right now.
Oh, for sure. And I doubt the Emperor will ever stop chasing her, So that I hate, like, I don't think you have to explain why animation characters aren't in the movies, like I've always hated why isn't Ahsoka in Revenge of the Sith? Like, all right, we'll just make season 7 and put her in Revenge of the Sith practically.
She was in a different place. Yeah.
Like
wow.
It's not that hard to imagine. But like with like the Rogue One characters too, I felt like the decision to kill all of them was kind of that, which was, well then why wouldn't they be in episode 4? That's what I'm pretty sure that's something Gareth Edwards actually said. I could be misremembering things, but that's not something I'm a big fan of. I am a big fan of like character deaths meaning something. As long as Omega survives, I can't imagine killing Omega, but I'm okay with the rest of the Bad Batch, one by one biting the dust. Or
I was honestly kind of shocked that they showed like blood.
Oh yeah.
I thought that it
was disturbing.
Knowing that it's like a kids show, like them, like, pricking them, and they constantly test their blood, and you saw it like drip. I know that some kids or some people have like really big blood phobias. So I thought that was kind of an interesting, wow, Disney.
Yeah, they're pulling out all the stops.
Yeah.
Including, in the Bad Batch, in the Clone Wars arc of the Bad Batch, they cut a dude in half. Like, Clone Wars has always been violent. Like, it's pretty intense. And then the horror aspect of it as well, with like the dinosaurs and the Zillo Beast. Oh, there were definitely some hints at the Zillo Beast in this episode. Palpatine was saying, "I have need of such plans." But we're gonna. I know we're gonna see that stuff come to fruition eventually. I did have the question of like, why are there animals in that facility. Like, are they just cloning everything? Are they trying to mix Palpatine's DNA with everyone? Are we gonna see a furry Palpatine? Because I kind of want to now.
Like just trying to find any type of DNA match whatsoever. It could be like a mosquito, and they're like,
Oh.
"All right, we got it."
That'd be the scariest one. I hate mosquitoes.
So pesky.
Oh, they're the worst. And they have like the highest kill rate of any species on the planet. Like, they've killed more humans than any other thing has killed
Yeah,
humans.
I hate them.
Yeah.
They love
from
me. I hate
Houston.
them.
My mom says I just have sweet blood, and they
Yeah.
come after me.
Yeah,
So,
I get
we'll
it.
see. I was also kind of predicting seeing a bit of an unfinished Death Star at some point. That's kind of wishful thinking. Because I
did not watch much of the trailers because I like to keep myself a little in the dark. Did we have any hint of Fennec Shand? If so, I would like to say it'd be cool if Fennec Shand shows up.
I only watched the trailer once for the same reason, just to get myself hyped and then just keep it in the back of my mind. So I'm pretty sure Fennec was in a shot.
Okay.
I'm
It'd be
very
cool.
specifically
No.
remember seeing her.
And I believe I also saw Cad Bane in a shot.
Yeah, we might be thinking of like the recap.
Maybe? I don't know.
Could
But,
be it. Oh.
but let me just say
Yeah.
that like it'd be cool to see maybe that come back around, because that was that season 1 that they have their duel, or season 2?
Yeah, that's all season 1.
Okay. Yeah, so that would be cool to see Cad Bane and or Fennec Shand come around in season 3.
Get the Pike Syndicate, get Crimson Dawn in there with like Maul's with Crimson Dawn at this point, I believe. So absolutely,
Oh my gosh,
room
if
for
we got
some
a Maul
versus
appearance.
Ventress or like something crazy. Let's
Now we're
resurrect
getting out of
Dooku.
pocket.
Let's
We're
just put
getting out
Dooku-
of
Dooku's head in a jar on top of like a spider crab thing. That's what I want to see. Just bring everyone back.
like Futurama.
Exact. Oh, I love that. That shows such good Star Wars content, actually. My biggest wishful thinking tangent that I went on after I was trying to write down all my thoughts was thinking about how cool a Bad Batch video game would be. It would be kind of a little bit like Republic Commando. Are you familiar with that one? It's an older one. It was definitely like too mature for my age when it came out. Basically, like seeing the Republic Commandos in this show a lot is really what made me think about how well that would work, because each of them have their own specialty, their own classes. So it's the focus of the game is the co-op-ness of it. So it's you and 3 buddies with very different skills and abilities going through these dangerous missions. And then I thought about how you could bring in something from the old Battlefronts called Galactic Conquest, which is a game mode where it's basically like Monopoly, where you use points that you earn to buy reinforcements, and you capture planets and things like that. And I thought of how you could tell the entire story of the Bad Batch, starting with season 7 of the Clone Wars and ending with, season 3 of the Bad Batch, with kind of a non-linear approach to it. Like, there are a lot of spin-off episodes, and there's a lot of like character dynamics and relationships. So I would love to see like a Star Wars game. You could absolutely just do it with these characters and just call it like it's pseudo canon, like a lot of other games are, where like, Crosshair starts out on the enemy's side, but if you do this during this mission, or if you have these morality choices in the story that would bring him onto your team sooner or later or never, depending on just your choices in the game. And each character would have their own relationship meter with other characters, their own friendship bonds, synergy that would affect your stats in game. And this could all just be co-op. That's not even to touch the how awesome the multiplayer could be, like the PvP modes, like these large-scale Battlefront battles with a capital ship and destructible environments. Of course, I want all that stuff in it too. But if we just got a game about the Bad Batch doing anything like that, I would be the happiest fan. Which I already kind of am. This is the best freaking week to be a Star Wars fan. They just announced Battlefront 2 being re-released on modern consoles with like the DLC from the Xbox Live that no one got to play. Like they have Asajj Ventress and Kit Fisto in Battlefront.
Wow.
They added them in DLC, but only Xbox Live players got them. So most people don't even know they exist. And they're based on the Tartakovsky, because they were before the Clone Wars, these games. They're based on the Tartakovsky versions of those characters, which is cool. But I'm just excited. They're gonna have 32v32 battles, and it's gonna be on Switch and PC and all these things, so I can play with my older brother like we used to back.
Yeah,
in the
is it going to
day.
have cross-platform?
That's still a question.
But
Not
I did see
sure.
that it was getting released for everything from like Xbox One to PS4 and PS5. So even like the lower generations, which is really cool. And
Mhm.
I didn't play this when I was a kid, but I've
Oh, you
only
didn't?
heard everybody say that it's literally the best Star Wars game.
Oh,
So
now I'm so excited for you. Do you have a PS4, right?
we have a PS5 and I
PS5,
have an
fancy.
Xbox
And an
Series
X.
S.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So definitely we're gonna get to
Yeah.
play this game. I really hope it's cross compatible, but if not, I'll figure it out because like that would be great content. Us playing
Yes,
playing the
that'd be
classic
super fun.
Battlefronts, and the new ones. I'm still a big fan of the new ones, and we need more petitions. I think there's just so much excitement in the fandom right now because of this announcement that we're gonna be pushing for a Battlefront 3 or some kind of Battlefront sequel. And I think like the Clone Wars / Bad Batch era would be the perfect way to focus a game like that. We also did get confirmation of a Mandalorian game coming soon. Well, I think it might be like semi-confirmed. It could absolutely still be canceled, like a lot of projects do.
It probably will be.
Most likely, but hey, it's in the works and it could happen. So that's something else to get excited about. I don't know. I think it's the best time to be a Star Wars fan is right now.
Yeah. I
used to
agree.
say it was in 1984, but but
Every
now
time
I'm
is a
like,
good time to be a Star Wars fan.
there have been harder times
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
I think it
that's true.
sucked for me being a fan in elementary school and everyone else like thinking I'm just a nerd for it. I was definitely a little too obsessed with it. Like I was obsessed with Star Wars when I was 2 years old, and my mom said, "Okay, it's just a phase. He'll grow out of it." Fast forward 24 years later, it is not a phase, Mom. It is my entire personality, and it's all I think of all day, every day.
And yeah, and here we are now.
Here we are. Glad to be here. Well,
Yeah.
that's it for this week's episode of Duel of the Ranks. Thank you for joining us. If you're listening online after the fact, please join us for our live stream sessions on YouTube. They're a lot of fun. We get a lot of engagement with the audience. We get to hear your hot takes. And hit us up on Twitter. What else should they hit us up on? Our website or something?
Yeah, check out dueloftheranks.com and yeah, but like definitely like, comment, share this with anyone else who's watching Bad Batch right now if you want just some buddies to fanboy with and fangirl with. We are going to be watching it week by week. So it's great that it also comes out on, wait, what day did it come out on? I watched
Wednesday.
it yesterday.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
well, yeah. Unfortunately, they're doing the 2:00 in the morning time release, so I know I'm going to be up at that time and say, oh, you know what? Let's just stay up.
I'm
till
just going to
4
watch
and
it.
yeah.
Well, it's great that it releases right before we record, so we can be one of
Right.
the first places that you get to listen and discuss it with.
Yeah. Let's keep the discussion rolling. I guess that'll do it for me. Any last thoughts? No.
No.
We'll see y'all next week. Catch you on the flippity flip.